I'm Susan Larkan. I am, just to add it on before anyone thinks I'm a lawyer or a psychologist or anything like that, I'm not. I do not have those degrees, but I do fight gender-based violence through my own experiences. So I'd like to make my negative experiences into a positive, especially for our communities of South Africa, our people that are experience some gender-based violence. And again, we must remember gender-based violence does not discriminate on age, race, religion at all. It can affect all of us at some time of our lives. Yeah, so I would like to really start working and throughout South Africa in assisting whoever is experiencing some type of abuse and helping them to no longer be a victim, but become a survivor, as we call ourselves once we get ourselves out of that situation, and try not to get back being called a victim, which, as myself, 4 times over, yes, some of us don't learn very fast. So we seem to also attract the same type of character, as I've read in research over and over. So you have to look for those little bit of, how can I say, trigger characters and try and move away from that in every way you can. So yes, that is who I am. And I don't know, do you have any questions, Mohammed?
No, Susan, thank you very much for that. I just want to let everybody know that we are streaming live. We are on Zoom, but we are streaming live on the various platforms. Susan, gender-based violence, it got its impetus many years ago and quite some time ago as well, but it renewed with the lockdown, in my view. I always knew about lockdown, about gender-based violence, very much about it, but however, since the lockdown started, there was a resurgence thereof. So, Susan, can you maybe assist me and maybe enlighten me on the issue? Is gender-based violence specifically only to females, or does it apply to men as well?
No, it applies to everybody, to men and women, and in same-sex relationship. There is no discrimination on your gender to who it actually is, should I say, played out on. It used to be only seen as a woman abuse. Because we've had society, men especially, supposed to be the stronger, well, always known as the stronger person, and was not allowed to, the old saying, cowboys don't cry. So they actually didn't go out and advertise that they were being abused by women or whatever. And again, we go in our different, in our gay communities or lesbian communities, all of those, the same thing is that because already the same-sex relationships is, society still has a huge stigma on them. And when they have the same type of abuse that happens in your man and female relationships, you don't get them going out seeking help. And that's often we find a lot of fatalities coming up in those relationships. So no, there is no discrimination on who. It's still predominantly on women and children, but there is a change where the man is coming out, and we are seeing more and more cases being reported and need of help in many ways. Yeah, abuse can come from anyone can be an abuser at the same time, and there is help out there for abusers as well. As much as that I advocate that an abuser goes and gets help, I almost would like to see the courts, if it gets to court, that the courts sort of put it in there as part of their rehabilitation, that they need to get this psychiatric or counseling or management or mediation, some type of form of rehabilitation, and they must go through it. That's very important. We can't just only look at the victim in this as well. And lots of people say, oh, no, we have to. We've got to stop the abuser. And if we can't rehabilitate the abuser, we're going to continue having gender-based violence. So we have to look at both of them and try and weigh the scales equally. that if there is an abuser in your house or in your family or in your friendship, they need to get help before it gets to a state where they end up in prison or someone is killed of some kind like that. Yeah. So yeah, there is definitely no discrimination.
Yeah, I think I agree with you over there. I do agree with you. Prevention is better than cure.
Yes,
We'll
definitely.
continue having gender-based violence problems in the next decades to come, unless we
I
do
will
something about
do.
it now. Especially the youth who are now getting involved in relationships with whoever, maybe 16, 17-year-old kids.
Yes.
Um, it needs to be dealt with on school level, on university
Mm.
level, and beyond, so that we can ensure, because I mean, in my personal view,
I must have
gender-based
some
violence
tea.
generally, of course, it applies culturally, it applies to various
Mm.
religions as well, and
Yes.
so on. But the most of the time, it will apply to couples, girlfriend, boyfriend,
Yes.
husband, wife,
Yes.
partner, etc. And if we can eradicate it from that point of view, I'm certain the fringes thereof will automatically be eradicated as well.
Yes, it's got to start at home as well. You know, if we as adults are abusive in our own behavior at home, the child sees it, the child learns it. So this really has to, start there. But we are seeing a lot of abuse within your teen relationships. As you say, the teenagers are getting into little relationships and you'll find abuse in some way. I think I've just posted something this morning that I picked up where how dangerous it is and what the parents have to look out for, and even your teenagers, because we've got teenagers on social media that are reading these things, which is a good thing, because it starts to plant a seed of how they can also be aware of maybe a boyfriend or girlfriend that is now becoming obsessive and possessive over them, watching their phones, who they're speaking to. Those are small things that that's the start of abuse, is when a partner starts to not trust you or wants total ownership over you. And you will see that they want to always look at your phone or want to know who you're speaking to, why you're speaking to them, where you're going, your dress codes and things like that. So it really is, it starts at teenage years when you can actually start seeing the abusive behavior coming out in that person. And if parents are very aware of that as well, they should be able then to maybe get the necessary assistance to change that behavioral pattern. So a lot of it also comes into anger management, because abuse often is also based on people that are so angry for some reason of their life. And there it goes again, back to a learned behavior often, or they themselves have been abused and now are practicing it out on their partner. So there's lots of ways that both can be helped and both can be made very aware of what triggers. And you have to also be very aware when you're in a situation or in a relationship that could be abusive, is that you make yourself very aware of what triggers off that abuse. Um, you shouldn't have to always walk on eggshells around an abusive person, but there are ways to take yourself out of that immediate situation if you can, because sometimes you can't, and stop the abuse from starting. But then again, it's a long-term thing. You have to do it over and over and over again. It's not a once-off thing. So it's a practiced behavior change as well. And the same for abusive people. They often learn that if they can no longer control you, which can actually cause secondary abuse, because once you start being or standing up to them, they can become even more aggressive, or maybe they walk away. But I think on my experience is they can, and they more likely will become more aggressive if they feel they stop having control over you. But then you need to move yourself out of that as well. You shouldn't stay in any relationship where there is constant abuse at all. As hard as it is, you need to move on. Which is also another huge issue, especially in women who now have children, or the finances are cut, they've got nowhere to go to. Families start stepping down on them and telling them they're weak because they're running. And so they lose all that outside, what would I call it, outside support, your outside or extended support lines start to diminish and you really find yourself on your own. And this often keeps a person who's being abused in that situation because they don't know what to do, or they're too afraid to leave. And even if they're on their own, they're also too afraid to leave because they don't want to lose face within the family. And when there's children, well, where do I go with my children? Children need a father and a mother. Yes, I do agree. Both parents should be a lot more prominent in the upbringing, but really it's no use keeping children in an abusive home because they're going to learn abuse. They're going to see that abuse. They're either going to become, if they don't become an abuser themselves, they're going to develop some type of characteristic in their personality that will show up somewhere in their life, and it's not healthy because eventually they won't know where they've actually developed this from, and it will eventually show up in some social behavior. So yeah, it's rather better, take that plunge and leave and start over. It is difficult, I know from myself, to get assistance when you need to help, but there are more and more platforms where someone in an abusive situation can get assistance. They are out there. And as I've always say, if you can't get someone from a organization, your police station is your first, if you really have to run immediately. And they are mandated to get you into a place of safety and your children. So yes, yeah, it's quite a complex situation. And often people think of gender-based violence only as you say, as a man and woman, but it is all violences that come together in a pot that you or someone plays out on another to gain some type of control. And abuse is a control thing. That they use abuse to control, unless they've got a mental illness, and it's giving them some pleasure of hurting someone. But it's often that it is a control. It's a control mechanism where someone wants to have full control of what you do all the time and how you do it. And if you do not comply to their rules, the abuse starts. So yeah, that's very much in there. Yeah.
So
as you say, sorry, Mohammed, and as you say, we have it at school, and I think I've repeated it before, is that we use the word bullying at school. But actually, if you start looking at the cases that are coming up in bullying, it's often, again, gender-based. It's a boy, again, on a younger female, or a boy on a younger boy in a lower grade, or a quieter boy. And the same with your girls. I mean, we see these videos being thrown on Facebook with girls beating girls up, boys beating boys up outside school because of something they've said or they don't like. So yes, it's starting at school level, and even as low as our lowest grades. I have seen some strange, and I say strange behavior being played out in grade R, which is your 5 and 6 year olds. And that's extremely worrying to know that where has that child developed that behavior? Where has that child developed the disrespect for his peers or even his elders, in his teachers? And yeah, if it starts at that as young as 4 and 5, you start wondering what is going to happen when he starts being 10, 11, 12, or even older. Then it's very hard to correct that behavior once it's allowed to carry on developing. But yes, it starts at home, unfortunately. Yeah. I can only see that starting at home.
No, thank you for bringing that to our attention, because in my experiences, many people, they never experienced domestic violence or gender-based violence, and they only experience it in a later stage in their lives. As now you mentioned, now, I would imagine from 20 plus onwards, it's been more prevalent. At a younger age, they might witness it, but as a child, but being a actual participant in it will happen late in your life. And I agree with you, we need to start early. It needs to be sorted out as soon as possible. Susan, I want to focus more but on you now. You have 40 years, I can't say experience, but
it's actually 41 years of experience now.
A lot of experience.
Sad to say.
And gender violence. going forward, how can someone get hold of you at least, or make use of your experience and your services to assist them in if they are a victim of gender-based violence, or they may
Okay,
be
I
perpetrator of
am,
gender-based violence, but they need assistance.
yes. Yes, well, they can contact me. My cell phone is, I've always put my cell phone number out there, my email numbers. So my cell phone, they can, nearly everyone's got WhatsApp, so it's a lot easier to contact you there. So it is out there. I don't know if you want me to give the number live now. I can.
You're welcome to do it.
It's 076 554 6657. 076 554 6657. That's my number. You can contact me anytime, and well, I will hopefully be awake if it's in the middle of the night to get you now, but I will contact you at the earliest and direct you to wherever you are. You don't have to be in Cape Town, you could be anywhere in South Africa. I will try and get you assistance through networking, whatever. Then I have my Facebook groups. I've got from victim to survivor, and I have my Tabansi group, which we're on now. We linked this obviously onto Tabansi because there are a lot more followers at the moment, but it's growing greatly on my from victim to survivor, which I don't like to say is I'm glad, because at least I'm getting out to people and they're seeing it. But it's very sad to see that there are so many that are needing some support somehow or other right now. And that happens all the time. As I say, 1 to 3 people are, females really are abused sometime in their life. And going back to the 41 years, and you were saying, yes, some of us only see abuse later in our lives. Well, I was 17 when I married my first husband, and I was raised in a very close community in Cape Town, Wurtersig. Gosh, we were so protected. My parents overprotected us, my sister and myself. And strange enough, my father and mom asked me late in my life was there anything I felt they had not done right to us as growing up? And the only thing I could say, which I'm so pleased I had the upbringing and the love I had, I was overprotected. You know, still in those days, if you want to go 60s, 70s, we weren't streetwise like we are today, really, and we were protected from everything outside our house. So we actually didn't know of gender-based violence or any violence. My parents weren't violent. I think I saw them having one argument in all my life, and that was over a family member. And otherwise, anything that was that they had any, should I say, if they had an argy-bargy, as you call it, it was done not in front of my sister or myself. We never saw them arguing. We never saw them disagreeing with each other. If there was a disagreement, it was not done in front of us children, so we didn't see that. So me going into a relationship with a man 5 years older than me and experiencing this abuse from before we were married, the reason we got engaged, and I tried to actually break the engagement, where he then threatened to kill my sister, who was then 11, 12 years old, and said, if you don't marry me, I will hurt your family. So naive as what I was, I thought, I've got to save my family. I've got to marry you. I've got to keep my family safe. I can't not do that. And even in the church, when I remember it, our priest, I went into a total stupor. I stood there, and our priest had asked me 4 times, do you take this man as your husband, or whatever the words were? And I just stared at him, because obviously then deep down, I didn't want to do it. And the abuse started that very night of my marriage. I was marriagely raped. We went on our honeymoon. He disappeared 4 days into our honeymoon, locked me in the room. So yes, the abuse started from prior being married. And it was very hard to actually even grasp that type of abuse when we weren't even given hidings. We were punished some other form. So now to start being hit and accused of everything under the sun was a huge wake up to me, huge. And obviously in the first year within 3 months of us being married, I'd fallen pregnant. And I had this baby as well, as a child looking after a baby, as you can say, with an abusive husband. It was horrific. And yeah, it started there. And that was really where my experience is coming from. Mainly, my most abusive relationship was his. Sorry about the dogs barking. Yeah, that's where I start looking back, and I take all of that and I try and turn it around to help others of what they can do on my own experience. Throwing out. So yes, it does start, as you say, you grow up in a family, in a loving, protective family, and you all of a sudden now out there as a young woman or man, whatever, and boom, you're in this total different environment that you have no idea how to deal with it or work on it. Yeah. So it's very scary.
No, Susan, thank you very much for that. And I know, Susan, there are many bullies out there, people that try to continue the aspect of gender-based violence, I continue bullying.
Yes.
But I also have also noticed that the more you speak about it and the more you come out about these issues of gender-based violence, the better it is for you. I mean, obviously there is the police. You can't intimidate people. You can't do these type of things to people. It's a criminal offense. You can go to jail. You can go to prison for that. So people must know that, and that's where the law comes in. But of course, gender-based violence is sometimes very silent. People do not want to expose.
It's very silent, yeah.
Susan, we almost on the half an hour, and that was the time that we allocated for this. Any final words from your side?
Yes, and also I'd like to say to everyone, there is, as you mentioned, the law is on your side. People must stop being scared of the word lawyers or court. People still today, there's such a stigma that if they hear court and they hear lawyers or hear police, they want to run in the opposite direction. They're there to actually assist you. And there's so much out there. You can go to your local magistrate. You don't need a lawyer if you can't afford a lawyer. There's legal aid that will help you as well. But you do have your magistrate courts that most of them have domestic violence officers there, and you can get your harassment orders, your protection orders, and they're there to help you. And but you also have to learn to stand up and demand that protection, because we hear of it as well. When people go and look for protection, they say, oh no, go home and try and sort it out. No, they're there to assist you. That's why there are professionals dealing in those matters. So yes, don't feel that you have to stay there. There is. And sometimes we often say, I mean, I think I've said it myself, the protection order is only a piece of paper, but as I just mentioned, is that you have to demand that order is used when necessary. Don't just think it's a piece of paper and now, well, that's it. You've got to use that piece of paper in the right manner and make sure it's used. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. 100%. Yeah. Susan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mohammed.
And we will have many more of these type of videos in the future. And please, all the people that are viewing this video, please feel free to share it. And we're looking forward to chatting to you soon again. Thank you very much.
And Mohammed, they can also go to your on our lawyer website. There's lots and lots of information there. You're always posting your webinars there. So for them, it's also important to carry on reading about what is being said, like from yourself, who has the professional background and lots more information to give out. So yes, they must go onto our lawyer website and have a look and see what's going on there and read. They must read. Yeah.
No,
thanks, Advocate.
No, thank you. Susan, stay on the line. I'm just closing. I'm going off on the live webinar, but we'll chat a bit further after this. Yes, Our Lawyer website, www.ourlawyer.co.za, and we also have Our Lawyer Facebook page. You're welcome to join. Thank you very much, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.